Hey there, YouTube land. I know I usually post over at my desk, and only rarely do I post over here, but my back is being special again, so I'm going to try and keep this brief since I'm doing it over here with a handheld iPod. I had my interview last week. I think it went good. It felt like a good interview, for what that's worth, since I haven't been on many lately. And she said I would hear back from her as early as Monday, which would be today. It's a waiting game, and I don't like waiting games, because, I mean, if you're in my position where you have nothing else to do, except, clean the house, maybe, it really feels like there isn't enough ability to kill time. And I hate that. I don't like waiting around. I don't like... Well, I mean, I like not having anything to do in the sense that I like vacations and I like taking time off like any rational person I've ever known. But I don't like when it's not by my choice. When I'm waiting because someone else has decided I need to wait. That irks me. What else? Yesterday was the unveiling for the grave markers for Sam's grandparents. So that was a bit of an emotional thing. We went to this glatt kosher restaurant not far from the cemetery afterwards. And I gotta say I was pleasantly surprised. I mean, I grew up in a universe where being Jewish was just kind of like a footnote in my life. So I grew up thinking bacon is one of the best things ever created. And I wasn't really confident there would be things on a glatt kosher menu that I'd enjoy or really be willing to try. And I was pleasantly surprised. There were several kinds of salads, several different choices of entree, including fish and chips with ketchup and tartar sauce, which for someone who could easily survive on pub grub the rest of my life was pretty awesome. I guess there was a bit of a situation with the charging or the way things were handled. If the gripes I heard from several people had anything to do with anything. Not 100% sure who paid. But my takeaway from that experience is that there is food on a truly kosher menu that I can eat and can enjoy, which will probably make future family events a bit simpler on me. What else? I'm still working on my diet. I'm now using an actual food journal kind of thing. And it's not the first time I've tried it. I mean, I have another one that's literally a calorie counter. But I find that when I use the calorie counter, I feel under this enormous amount of pressure to keep to a particular number. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, you should stay within a reasonable amount of calories, all things considered, per person on an individual basis. But it's too much like when my mother used to keep tabs of how much of what snack I used to eat. And then she would yell at me if I had anything over what she decided was appropriate. Mind you, the woman who did this to me was typically between 300 and 400 pounds at the time she did it. Agoraphobic, intentionally stayed home. She had lost quite nearly all of her teeth, and the majority of her diet was ramen noodles and soft bready things. I don't do well with hypocrisy. So, I don't know. I'm trying to be better about the things I eat. I'm trying to keep things like Fiber One granola bars in the house for snacking. I'm trying to follow as many of the Bob Harper skinny rules as I can about not having carbs after lunch and having enough protein and calcium in the morning and, hydrating to an excess almost. Although for my standard of perpetually dehydrated, any would be an improvement. So it's the waiting game. And I don't like the waiting game. I've been out of work for so long. And I'm just, I'm waiting for other shoes to drop. I mean, there are times where good things happen, and then they keep happening, and I just know, that the rubber band is gonna snap back, and I'm going to get fucked by the universe. I don't know how, I don't know when, but I know it's coming. What's the other thing I've been doing? Oh, geek moment. I devoured a Wil Wheaton book the other day in about 2 hours. I don't know if it was the full version or the abbreviated version, because it was like a fifth of the price of the other version on iTunes. But in any event, I read it in about 90 minutes, and it were awesome. Awesome. Now, I fall within the Trekkie camp of non-obsessive, meaning, yes, I've seen every episode, probably more than once. No, I can't quote you dialogue. No, I'm not going to know more trivia than you do. And no, I'm not going to get into a debate about who is the best guest character, why, when, why they should have brought them back, or anything of that same ilk about who is the best villain and why, though I do hold certain opinions about certain things, I admit. But that's beyond the point. That said, I didn't have extreme issue with it when the character of Wesley Crusher was written off. And it wasn't until years later that I understood why Wil Wheaton had chosen to leave the show, at least as I found in different places on the internet, among other things. But reading his books, I'm now 400 pages, I think, into another of his books, Just a Geek. I'm not reading them in order, I'm just reading them. I'm about 400 pages into Just a Geek, and it's some very good writing. The last year, I know I've read 2 Alan Alda biographies, and I also read the Rob Lowe biography, Stories I Only Tell My Friends. And I have always been a huge fan of people like Robert Fulghum. Truth, but satiristically phrased. And these all, for me, fall within, like, top 5 authors. Because they all happen to be male, I know, but they're all authentic in the sense that they don't care if they curse. They don't care if they say something that people as fans are going to find unpopular. What they tell you is the truth. And if you can't handle the truth, as so many human beings can't, you're not going to like them. You're not going to like the books, you're not going to like the person writing it, you're not going to like what they have to say. And you know what? That's you. I like the truth. I like when people are so honest. You gotta figure some part of them is screaming, "Why the fuck are you saying that out loud?" And personally, not just because I think of myself as a writer, but personally living in my own head, I can relate to that, because more days than not, more phrases than not, that actually end up coming out of me in some expressive manner, be it verbal or written, there is a portion of the back of my mind going, how the hell do you think sharing that is a good idea? What benefit could that possibly serve you in the long run? No one cares. You are not famous, you are not rich, you are not significant. Why bother? And I'll admit it's a reasonable point to a certain extent, but I have to learn to stop giving a shit. Because truth is truth, and there are things I like to talk about, and for whatever reason in my life, I don't really have many personal relationships. Not for lack of desire, not for lack of trying, just lack of. So I do this. Suffice to say, my point is, if you haven't read any of Wil Wheaton's books, I advise it. if you like truth, if you like honesty, if you like personal, raw reality, any of those books would do. Any of Wil Wheaton's books, the Rob Lowe autobiography, any of Alan Alda's books, Robert Fulghum's books, these all fall within that category. So that's the end of my advice for this post. I may or may not post tomorrow, depending on what I have to say, and I may or may not include comments and thoughts on the birthday dinner Sam and I went to on Friday for fellow YouTuber Dara. And yes, we had fun. So that's it for now. And I don't know. Fingers crossed.